Welcome to the Eerie Hour. Some places don't just haunt you, they wait. If you enjoy descending into the strange and the forgotten, don't forget to like and subscribe, and share your theories below. Now, let's begin. But remember, once the story starts, something always follows. There are moments, small, insignificant moments, that crack the shell of reality, allowing something else to seep through. A misplaced key, a forgotten word, a familiar corner that suddenly seems alien under a certain light. But sometimes it's something far more mundane, a simple, thoughtless act performed in the deep, suffocating quiet of the night. You might have done it countless times before. A glass of water, a quick check in the mirror, splashing cold water on your face to shake off sleep's heavy cloak. The hour is always the same, 3 a.m., the time when the veil thins, when the world holds its breath. You don't believe in such things, or you didn't, until you found yourself standing there. Bathroom light too bright, the silence pressing in around your ears. The fan hums a low, pointless drone, a single, failed attempt to fill the void. You leaned over the sink, just for a second, looking down into the cool, white porcelain basin. Maybe at the glint of the drain, maybe at your own tired hands gripping the edge. The water is still, reflecting the harsh fluorescent glare. And in that quiet, private moment, something shifted. A feeling you couldn't name. A sound that wasn't your own, faint, like air being drawn in, then released, just once. A glimpse, reflected not quite in the surface of the water, but somewhere through it, or in the chrome, that wasn't quite right. It started small, a seed of pure, unreasoning unease planted deep within you, a cold knot tightening in your gut. Your reflection in the small medicine cabinet mirror above the sink shows only tired eyes and a furrowed brow, oblivious to the tiny ripple beneath. And it began when you leaned over the sink, just past 3 a.m., and saw something that wasn't supposed to be there at all, flickering just beneath the surface. Sleep doesn't come easily after that. The clock ticks past 4, then 5. Every creak of the old house sounds like footsteps. Every gust of wind outside sounds like a sigh. You tell yourself it was tiredness, the trick of the light, a half-waking dream. You close your eyes, willing your mind to let it go. But the image persists, the brief, impossible distortion in the sink's quiet water, the faint, unsettling sound. You try to replicate it, sitting up in bed, focusing on the silence. Was it the house settling? The plumbing? Your own breathing, echoing strangely in the night? No, it felt external, close. When you finally drift into shallow sleep, your dreams are disjointed, filled with muted colors and the feeling of falling slowly, endlessly, into something dark and reflective. Waking feels like surfacing from deep water. The first thing you notice is the quality of the light outside the window. Pale, weak, like the sun is struggling to penetrate a perpetual mist. And then you hear it again, not loud, but distinct this time. The soft intake and exhale of breath. It seems to come from the wall nearest the bathroom. You hold your own breath, listening. Silence stretches, taut and waiting. Then, the sound again, a little closer. It isn't human breathing. It's too slow, too deep, and carries a faint, damp resonance, like air moving through wet earth. You push yourself out of bed, heart pounding, and creep towards the hallway. The bathroom door is closed, a sliver of light visible underneath. Your reflection in the hallway mirror seems paler than usual, eyes wide and dark. You reach for the doorknob, cold and metallic under your touch, and hesitate. What if the sound is coming from inside? What if what you saw was more than a trick of tired eyes? The breathing stops as abruptly as it started. Like before, the silence answers, but now it feels heavier, charged with a terrible expectation. You stand frozen in the hallway, caught between the mundane and the monstrous, wondering what waits on the other side of that door, and if you really want to know. The fear is no longer mild unease. It's a cold certainty settling in your bones. You don't open the door. Not then. You back away slowly, retreating to the perceived safety of your bedroom. The hallway mirror, a dark, silent witness to your retreat. But the sound of breathing, faint as it was, has planted itself in your mind, mingling with the image of the disturbed reflection. The line between wakefulness and sleep blurs, the hours of darkness becoming a single extended vigil. You find yourself drawn back to the bathroom throughout the day, checking the mirror, running the water, examining the sink. The porcelain is just porcelain, the water just water. The mirror shows only you, yet a persistent sense of otherness clings to the room. A faint, almost imperceptible chill that has nothing to do with temperature. That night, you try to stay up, fueled by caffeine and a desperate hope of avoiding the hour, the place. But exhaustion is a heavier cloak than sleep. You slump onto the sofa, the television a flickering distraction. The house falls silent around you once more. You wake with a start, not to an alarm, but to the absolute stillness. The screen shows only static now, a swirling gray-white noise that seems to hum just below the threshold of hearing. Your internal clock screams the time, 3 a.m. You are on your feet before you consciously decide to move, walking towards the bathroom as if pulled by an invisible thread. This time, the door is ajar. A thin beam of light spills into the dark hallway. You approach cautiously, peering inside. The bathroom looks normal. The stark light, the cool tiles, the sink. You step inside, drawn by an irresistible force. Your eyes go immediately to the mirror above the sink. Your reflection stares back, eyes wide, face pale with apprehension. But then, it shifts. Your reflection in the glass tilts its head fractionally, a movement you did not make. A slow, deliberate gesture, completely out of sync with your own rigid posture. And then, it smiles. A slow, unnatural stretching of the lips that doesn't reach the eyes. It's not your smile. It's too wide, too knowing, and sends a jolt of pure, unadulterated terror through you. This is not a trick of the light or a tired mind. The mirror hasn't moved, but something behind it has, and it's looking back with your own face. It's a sickening violation, the feeling of your own image turned against you. What you see isn't just a reflection anymore. It's an imitation, and it's waiting for you to catch up. The smile fades, the reflection resuming your terrified stare. But the image is seared into your mind. You stumble back, heart hammering against your ribs. The cold reality of what you saw crashing over you. The psychological fracture is complete. Sanity feels like a fragile pane of glass, already cracking under the pressure. You want to scream, to run, to turn on every light in the house, but fear roots you to the spot. The breathing returns, louder this time, emanating from the direction of the mirror. It's a wet, gurgling sound, full of effort, as if something is straining to push through a narrow opening. You stare at the glass, mesmerized and horrified. Is it coming from inside the mirror? Is the mirror not a reflection of reality, but a window into something else? You reach out a trembling hand, hesitant to touch the cold surface. Your fingers hover inches away. The air around the mirror is colder than the rest of the room, a biting chill that seems to suck the warmth right out of you. You can almost feel the resistance, the thin membranes stretched tight, vibrating with the unseen struggle on the other side. And then you see it, a faint ripple on the surface of the mirror, as if something is pressing against the glass from behind. It's like the distortion in the sink, but magnified, focused. The reflection flickers violently, your image contorting for a sickening second, replaced by something else. A shape, dark and indistinct, just behind the glass. The breathing intensifies, a ragged gasp. A voice whispers your name from the mirror, low and sibilant, sounding like gravel scraping over damp stone. It's not your voice, but it uses your name. It wants something. It wants out. Or maybe it wants in. The air grows heavy, thick, with an unnatural scent, like stagnant water and fear. Which side of the glass holds the truth? You don't know anymore. You yank your hand back as if burned, stumbling away from the mirror. The whispering stops, the breathing subsides slightly, but the oppressive presence remains, clinging to the air like a sour scent. The house feels different now, infused with a silent malice. Every shadow seems to deepen, every floorboard creak like a deliberate step. You can't escape the feeling of being watched, not just by the mirror, but by the house itself, which seems to hold its breath in anticipation. Sleep is a distant, impossible luxury. You spend the next few days in a state of hypervigilance, jumping at every sound, avoiding the bathroom, or rather, avoiding the mirror within it. But the symbolic motif of reflections begins to bleed into the rest of your life. You catch glimpses of movement out of the corner of your eye, in shop windows, in car mirrors, even in puddles on the street. Each time, it's just a fleeting distortion, a glimpse of something that isn't you, isn't quite human. Gone before you can focus. It's a constant, gnawing reminder that the anomaly isn't confined to the bathroom anymore. It's bleeding into your perception of the world. You start seeing it in every reflective surface, a dark, indistinct shape lurking just beyond the glass. The psychological toll is immense. Paranoia sets in. You feel disconnected from reality, unsure of what is real and what is a hallucination brought on by lack of sleep and terror. Your own reflection feels alien now, a mask you wear. You return to the bathroom, compelled despite your fear. The mirror is inert, showing only the sterile room, your pale, haunted face staring back. But the cold spot is still there, emanating from the glass. You touch it this time. It's like touching ice. And then you see it on the glass, not a reflection, but a faint mark, like a handprint, smudged and indistinct, but undeniably there, on the surface, but looking as if it was pressed from within. It wasn't just a reflection anymore. Something had reached through, if only for a moment, and the air around it crackled with an unseen energy, static electricity making the fine hairs on your arms stand on end. The handprint on the mirror is a physical anchor for the terror, undeniable proof that something tangible, something other, is interacting with your world. You try to wipe it away, but it resists, fading slightly, then reforming. a persistent stain of the impossible. The static in the air grows stronger, a high-pitched whine that seems to originate from the glass itself. The breathing sound is constant now, a low guttural rumble coming from the mirror, no longer just an unsettling noise, but a palpable presence. You stand before it, paralyzed by fear and a morbid curiosity. Your reflection is agitated, shimmering and unstable, like an image projected onto uneven water. The dark shape behind the glass is clearer now, a hunched form with limbs that seem too long, too thin. It presses against the glass, the handprint pulsating faintly. The whispering returns, louder, more insistent, a torrent of distorted sound that coalesces into a single repeated phrase. Your name, twisted, elongated, repeated like a chant. It calls to you, beckoning you closer. You feel a pull, an intense magnetic force emanating from the mirror, drawing you forward. Your reflection in the glass is no longer mimicking you. It is separate, a terrified duplicate staring back at the monstrous shape behind it, pleading with you not to approach. But you can't stop. Your feet carry you forward until you are standing directly in front of the mirror, your forehead almost touching the cold glass. The breathing is deafening, the static unbearable. The figure behind the glass raises a hand, and you see fingers unnaturally long, tapering to sharp points, pressing against the inside of the mirror. The glass groans, a low, resonant hum that shakes the room. A crack appears, radiating outwards from the center of the handprint. It's not just a mirror anymore. It's a threshold, and the barrier is breaking. And as the crack spreads, a single, wet eye opens in the darkness behind the glass, staring directly into yours. Something crossed over, leaving the taste of fear like ash on your tongue. The crack spiderwebs across the mirror, but doesn't shatter it. The intense pressure subsides. The static fades to a whisper. The breathing returns to a faint, distant sound. The eye in the darkness is gone. You stumble back, gasping for air, the cold leaving your skin tingling and raw. The handprint remains, a map of tiny fissures etched into the glass. The mirror is still there, reflecting the room, reflecting you. But everything feels altered. The silence is different now, not just empty, but hollow, as if something has been scooped out of it. You look at your own reflection. Your eyes are wide, bloodshot, but there is a new depth to them, a shadow that wasn't there before. You touch your face. It feels real, solid, yet a profound sense of dissociation lingers. Was it real? Was it a nightmare? The crack in the glass is real. The cold that lingers in the air is real. The residue of fear clinging to the bathroom walls is real. You clean the bathroom, scrubbing the sink until your hands ache, polishing the taps, trying to erase the memory, the possibility. The mirror remains, flawed and damaged, a permanent scar on the room. You try to cover it, first with a towel, then a sheet, but you can still feel its presence, drawing your gaze. The recurring motif has changed. The mirror is no longer a threat trying to get out. It's a reminder of what did happen and what might still be possible. You avoid looking directly at it, catching glimpses only in your periphery. Sometimes, when the house is quietest, just before dawn, you think you hear the faint sound of breathing again, coming from the bathroom. Or perhaps it's just your own ragged breath, echoing in the heavy silence. You know now that the moments, no matter how small, can shatter reality. And if you hear it again tonight, don't answer. Not yet. Welcome to the Eerie Hour. Some places don't just haunt you, they wait. They settle into the dust motes, dancing in sunbeams that never reach the floor. They linger in the cold pockets of air near closed doors. And they whisper secrets the wood remembers, but the living forget. This house, you think, holds its breath around you. The air is always just a degree too cool, the silence just a touch too deep, and there's a weight to the atmosphere you can't quite articulate, like standing under a forgotten well. It presses down, not physically, but against your awareness, a subtle distortion at the edges of sight and sound. You came here seeking something, solitude perhaps, or an escape from a noise outside yourself. Instead, you find a quiet that feels less like peace and more like absence, a void where something else is supposed to be. The first night, there was just a feeling, a sense of not being alone, a flicker in peripheral vision, a faint, unidentifiable sound that seemed to emanate from the plumbing, a low, resonant hum that wasn't the water pressure. It was negligible then, easily dismissed as the settling of an old structure, the echo of wind in forgotten chimneys. But the feeling didn't leave. It coiled in your gut, a nervous snake. If you enjoy descending into the strange and the forgotten, don't forget to like and subscribe and share your theories below. Now, let's begin. But remember, once the story starts, something always follows. The unsettling feeling didn't dissipate with the daylight. It solidified, fixating on the small upstairs bathroom, specifically the porcelain sink. It called to you, not with a voice, but with a low, persistent thrum in your awareness, particularly as the clock edged past midnight, creeping towards that impossible hour of 3 a.m. You fight it at first, staying in the relative safety of the living room, wrapped in a blanket, watching television with the volume high. But the television sounds thin, unreal against the growing pressure in the house, the pull towards the upstairs hall. The floorboards creak under your hesitant steps, each one a loud announcement in the deep silence. The air in the hallway is perceptibly colder, carrying with it a faint metallic tang, like old coins left in stagnant water. It's the smell that draws you fully towards the bathroom door. You push the door open, the small room bathed in the pale, clinical light of the nightlight you plugged in days ago. The sink is a stark white against the faded floral wallpaper. You approach it slowly, a leaden weight in your stomach that has nothing to do with hunger. Leaning over the basin, the cold of the porcelain seeps into your forearms, a chilling physical anchor to the uncanny. You lift your eyes to the mirror. Your reflection stares back, but it isn't quite right. The delay you noticed the first night is more pronounced now. You tilt your head. Your reflection tilts a fraction of a second later. You blink. Its eyelids lower with a sluggish, unnatural grace. And its eyes don't track yours exactly. They seem to linger, just for a fraction of a second longer than they should, on something over your shoulder. Or maybe through you, at a point you cannot see. A cold dread begins to spread through your chest, a chilling certainty that what you see is not merely a reflected image, but something else entirely, something inhabiting the glass. Then the sound returns, no longer just a faint hum. It is distinct now, undeniably organic, originating from the dark maw of the drain, or perhaps the surface tension of the still water at the bottom of the basin. A soft, wet, rhythmic sound. It is breathing. Slow, deep, unnervingly close breathing, like a sleeper just below the surface. Or perhaps something that struggles for air in a confined, liquid space. The smell intensifies, a thick, cloying scent of decay, mixed with that metallic tang, clinging to the air around the basin. Your mind scrambles, searching for logical explanations. Sleep deprivation? Stress? The house settling? But the fear is too sharp, too primal to be reasoned away. You are questioning your sanity, the reliability of your own senses. Is this real? Or is the house, or something in it, beginning to dismantle your perception? The reflection in the mirror is a stranger wearing your face, and the breath from the drain is proof that you are not alone in this small, cold room. The motif of the distorted reflection and the sound of breathing from the depths of the sink is no longer a subtle discomfort. It is the grinding engine of your growing terror, fixing your gaze, drawing you closer, even as every instinct screams to run. Suddenly, as you stare into the face that is yours but not yours, the brief, disjointed image flashes behind your eyes, unbidden, confusing. A child's hand reaching. For water? For something in the water? It's gone as quickly as it appeared, leaving behind only a hollow ache and a deeper sense of dread, an unfamiliar memory that feels both alien and deeply, terrifyingly personal. The porcelain feels colder now, as if drawing heat not just from your skin, but from your heart. But from your very presence, the memory fragment lingers, a phantom limb in your mind, a child's hand, reaching. Whose hand? Reaching for what? The question echoes the unnerving pull of the sink, the strange gravitational force that seems strongest in the pre-dawn hours. You try to avoid the bathroom, closing the door firmly, even leaning furniture against it. But the pull remains, a silent, persistent command in the back of your skull. Sleep offers no respite. Dreams are fractured things of dark water, distorted faces, and the soft, unending sound of breathing. You wake with a gasp, the taste of copper in your mouth, and the silent insistence drawing you upstairs. This time, you bring a flashlight, a futile weapon against something formless. The bathroom is just as you left it, the furniture still nudged against the door. The air is thick with that familiar noxious scent. Stagnant water, rust, and something else, something organic and decaying. The nightlight casts long, wavering shadows. You approach the sink, compelled, the flashlight beam shaking as you point it towards the drain. Nothing but the porcelain curve, the metal grate. But the breathing is louder tonight. A wet, ragged sound that seems to vibrate the very air. It feels closer, rising not just from the drain, but from the water pooled in the basin, from the surface itself. You lean closer, against your better judgment, against the screaming alarms in your mind. The reflection waits. It's worse now. Your reflected self is no longer merely delayed. It moves with subtle independence. Your hand rests on the edge of the sink. Its hand grips the porcelain, fingers flexing slightly. Your eyes are wide with terror. Its eyes are calm, observing, perhaps even curious. And it smiles. Just slightly, the corner of its mouth curving upwards in a slow, knowing expression that sends a fresh wave of nausea through you. That is not your smile. That is not your face looking back. The uncanny event is no longer subtle. The reflection is an entity, separate and watching. The atmosphere is heavy with the smell and the sound. The breathing seems to adapt to your presence. A soft intake as you lean in, a slow exhale as you recoil. It's mocking you, or perhaps beckoning. The psychological fracture deepens into paranoia. You start seeing fleeting movements in the corners of rooms, hearing faint whispers that vanish when you turn your head. You jump at every creak of the old house, but you know, with a certainty that chills you, that the sounds of the house settling are no longer just wood and wind. Something is moving within the walls, keeping pace with your fear. The motif of the reflection is terrifyingly clear now. It is not just a mirror image. It is a doorway, a surface tension that holds something back, or perhaps lets something through. It is a distorted double, a doppelganger waiting for its moment. The water in the sink, disturbed by nothing, seems to swirl faintly, mirroring the chaotic churn of your thoughts. An ambiguous line forms in your mind, unbidden, perhaps a whisper from the drain, or perhaps your own unraveling thoughts. It waits in the water, but it watches from the glass. The flashlight beam trembles, then flickers. The darkness seems to press in, and the breathing intensifies. A wet, hungry sound. The flicker of the flashlight plunges the bathroom into deeper shadow. The only light, the weak glow of the nightlight. The breathing from the sink seems to fill the void left by the dying beam, growing louder, more insistent. It sounds like something is trying to surface, straining against the constraints of the plumbing or the porcelain. You stumble back, hands covering your ears, but the sound penetrates, vibrating in your teeth, in your bones. It is no longer just breathing. There's a gargling quality to it now, a thick, viscous sound, as if something is drawing itself up from a great depth through a narrow pipe, slick and heavy with water. The reflection remains, even in the reduced light. It is almost fully detached now. While you stand trembling by the door, your mirrored self leans forward over the sink, its head cocked, listening. Its hand reaches slowly towards the drain, long fingers unfurling. You watch. Horrified, unable to move, unable to break the terrible connection between your eyes and the glass. This is the central uncanny event, the reflection acting entirely independently, mirroring the horrifying source of the sound. The atmosphere is thick with the smell. It's overpowering now, the metallic tang of rust and decay, mixed with something unmistakably organic, like rotting fish or wet earth stirred up from the bottom of a black lake. It fills your lungs, making you gag. The psychological fracture is complete. You are no longer questioning your sanity. You are facing something that exists outside of it, something that defies reality as you understand it. Panic gives way to a cold, profound terror, a sense of being prey, trapped in a small room with an impossible hunter. You feel a frantic urge to shatter the mirror, to destroy the gateway, but your limbs are frozen, heavy as stone. The house feels alive around you, the floorboards groaning not under your weight, but under something else's. You hear faint scraping sounds from within the walls, sounds that seem to move in time with the gargling from the sink. The recurring symbolic motif of the reflection has transformed from a distortion into a doppelganger, an inverse entity mimicking your form while pursuing its own dark agenda. It represents not just self-doubt, but the horrifying possibility of displacement, of being replaced by something from the other side of the glass. The water in the sink seems to pulse faintly in the nightlight, mirroring the frantic beat of your heart. An ambiguous, chilling realization forms. It is wearing your face to get closer to the drain. It's the reflection's fingers touch the metal grate of the drain, and the gargling intensifies into a wet, choking sound, like something being pulled through. The sound from the sink stops abruptly, replaced by a silence that feels heavier than any noise. The reflection in the mirror also freezes, its fingers resting on the drain grate. Then, very slowly, it turns its head, its eyes fixing directly on yours. There is no recognition in those eyes, only a vast, ancient indifference, like looking into the eyes of a deep-sea creature that has never known sunlight. The central uncanny event shifts from sound and movement to a chilling stillness and connection. The reflection doesn't smile this time. It simply observes you, calculating. The atmosphere remains thick with the foul smell, a constant oppressive presence in the small room. You are on the verge of breaking. The psychological fracture has widened into a chasm. Your mind rebels, desperately trying to rationalize, to force the impossible back into the realm of nightmare or delusion. But the reflection is there, tangible in its stillness, undeniably real in its terrifying presence. You feel a desperate, clawing need to escape, but the sense of paralysis is absolute. It feels as if you are being held in place by an invisible force, observed, assessed. The silence is broken only by your own ragged breath, which seems impossibly loud in the suffocating quiet. The motif of the reflection has reached its peak. It is no longer just a symbol of internal conflict or an uncanny entity. It is an active participant, perhaps even the architect of this horror. It represents the complete loss of self, the theft of identity, the horrifying potential for something else to step through the glass and take your place. The still water in the sink is black and opaque in the low light, a portal that has temporarily closed, or perhaps merely paused. An ambiguous, terrifying thought implants itself in your mind, cold and clear. What it pulled from the drain, it gave to the glass. The reflection's eyes hold yours for a long moment, an eternity stretching in the small, foul-smelling room. Then it slowly lowers its hand from the drain and dissolves, not fading, but simply ceasing to be in the glass. The surface of the mirror is just a mirror again, showing only the empty space behind you. The sudden absence is almost as terrifying as the presence. The reflection is gone. The breathing from the drain is gone. The thick, cloying smell begins to slowly dissipate, leaving behind only the faint, clean scent of the nightlight. The terrible compulsion that drew you to the sink is broken. You stumble out of the bathroom, collapsing in the hallway, gasping for air that no longer tastes of decay and rust. The immediate, sharp terror begins to recede, leaving behind a profound, bone-deep exhaustion and a chilling hollowness in your chest. The house feels quiet again, but it is a different kind of quiet, a watchful, expectant silence that feels permanent. The aftermath is not peace, but a terrifying kind of awareness. You know, with an absolute certainty that goes beyond rational thought, that something happened in that bathroom, something that has fundamentally altered the house and your place within it. The psychological residue is heavy, a constant layer of anxiety that hums beneath your skin. Sleep is fragmented, haunted by flashes of dark water and impossible reflections. Every shadow seems deeper, every unexpected sound a potential return. The questions linger, circling like silent vultures. What was the breathing? What was in the drain? What did the reflection want? What was that memory flash? Was it yours? Was it its? Was something pulled out of the water, and did it pass into the glass? The ambiguity remains, the edges of the horror blurred, resisting any simple explanation. The recurring motif of the reflection is now an absence, a chilling reminder of what was seen and what was lost. The mirror in the bathroom is just a mirror, but you can no longer look into it without a tremor of fear, without wondering if something is merely hiding, waiting for the light to dim, for the hour to turn. The water runs clear from the tap now, but you can't shake the feeling that something lurks just below the surface. In the pipes, in the deep places of the earth the plumbing reaches. It waits, and if you hear it again tonight, don't answer. Not yet. Welcome to the eerie hour. Some places don't just haunt you, they wait. This house stands on a hill, overlooking a town that prefers not to look back. Its windows are dark eyes in the failing light, and the air around it holds its breath. You feel it the moment you step onto the overgrown path, a stillness that isn't quite right, a silence that listens. This is where the story begins, in the dust motes dancing in the dying sun, in the shadows that stretch too long across the threadbare carpets. You are here now, drawn by something you can't name, a curiosity that feels less like a choice and more like a surrender. If you enjoy descending into the strange and the forgotten, don't forget to like and subscribe and share your theories below. Now, let's begin. But remember, once the story starts, something always follows. The house exhales a scent of aged wood, and something else, something faint but sharp, like forgotten coins or rain on hot stone. It settles on your tongue. You wander through rooms draped in sheets, silent sentinels guarding emptiness. The silence outside presses against the panes, thick and absolute. But inside, there's a subtle hum, a low thrumming that resonates not in your ears, but in your bones. You trace it, moving deeper into the house's core. It leads you upstairs, the old wood groaning underfoot like a weary sigh. The motif appears first in the upstairs hall, a long, rectangular mirror hanging slightly crooked, its glass clouded with age. As you pass, you catch a glimpse of yourself, but for a split second, the reflection seems wrong. Your posture is different, heavier, slumped. Your head is tilted at an impossible angle. It's gone as quickly as it registers, leaving a tremor in your gut. It's just the old glass, you tell yourself. Just a trick of the light or the dust. But the feeling lingers, a cold finger tracing its way up your spine. The psychological fracture is small but definite, a sudden sharp doubt in your own perception. The house listens, yes, but perhaps it also distorts what you see. An ambiguous thought surfaces unbidden. Are you sure that was you? You shake your head, the movement feeling clumsy, foreign. The uncanny event is the fleeting, impossible reflection. The atmospheric detail is the scent of old stone and coins clinging to the air. The recurring motif is the mirror, now more than just a surface. It holds something, even if only for an instant, that doesn't belong. The hum intensifies near the back of the upper hall, drawing you towards a closed door. It is the bathroom. The air here feels heavier, colder, clinging damply to your skin like grave clothes. A faint, rhythmic sound reaches you, soft but insistent. It is a sound you cannot immediately place. A low, steady hiss. Intake, hiss, intake. You lean closer to the door. It sounds like breathing, but no one else is here. The silence outside the house remains absolute, making the sound within the small room impossibly loud. Your reflection in the hallway mirror feels like a weight on your back now. You avoid looking at it directly. The psychological fracture deepens into a knot of pure dread. This is not just dust or light. This is something present. You push the door open slowly. The breathing sound seems to emanate from the sink area, though you see nothing. The atmospheric detail is the clinging, damp chill of the air in the room. The uncanny event is the distinct sound of breathing where no one is present. The recurring motif, the mirror, is opposite the sink, waiting. You step inside, feeling a pull you didn't expect. It wants you to look closer. The horror escalates with unnerving speed. The distortion in your reflection is no longer confined to fleeting glimpses in the hallway mirror. Even when you are simply standing in the bathroom, looking elsewhere, the edge of the glass seems to flicker. Out of the corner of your eye, you catch sight of your reflection, holding an expression you didn't make, a wide, vacant stare, or a slight, chilling smile that isn't yours. It lasts only a moment, a split second of impossible stillness or wrong movement, but it imprints itself behind your eyelids. The breathing sound is now sometimes heard when you are away from the sink, a soft, rasping exhalation that seems to follow you just outside the bathroom door, only to strengthen, becoming deep and resonant when you are near the sink once more. It sounds like it comes from the drain, from the dark throat of the pipe itself, or perhaps from the water standing idle in the basin. When you spend time in the bathroom at night, the flow of time warps alarmingly. Moments pass too quickly, a long stretch of staring into the basin feeling like mere seconds, or minutes crawl by like hours while you stand frozen by the door. You actively try to avoid the sink, to avoid the bathroom entirely after dark, but you find yourself drawn back by an invisible, insistent pull, your feet carrying you towards the chilled air and the waiting mirror against your will. The oppressive silence outside the bathroom only amplifies the unsettling sounds within. Your own thrumming heartbeat, now a frantic drum against the soft, rhythmic breathing. You feel intensely, undeniably watched. Confusion and disorientation cloud your thoughts, thick and suffocating. Memory gaps begin to appear, specifically relating to the time spent around the sink at night. There are minutes, sometimes longer, that you cannot recall, fragments of hazy, disturbing images being all that remain. The motif of the reflection is now undeniably linked to an intrusive, potentially autonomous presence, a watcher in the glass. The breathing sound is no longer just in the room. It seems tied to the water or the drain itself, something elemental and ancient stirring in the pipes. Foreshadowing its growing physical presence, you notice a strange, dark, inexplicable mark or discoloration on the porcelain of the sink basin near the drain that wasn't there before. A stain the color of old blood or deep rust, spreading like a bruise. Is it you looking out, or something else looking in? The stain on the sink expands daily, seeping further into the porcelain, like ink on paper. It pulses faintly when you look at it directly, a low, resonant thrumming that echoes the sound sometimes heard from within the drain. The breathing is bolder now. It is no longer confined to the bathroom or its vicinity. You hear it downstairs, faint at first, a soft whisper of air, but it grows rapidly, sounding as if it is right behind you. You spin around, but nothing is there. Only the silence of the house, which now feels less like emptiness and more like a held breath. The attraction to the bathroom is an ache in your chest, a relentless magnet tolling you towards the upstairs hall. You find yourself standing outside the door without remembering walking there. The mirror waits. The reflections are almost independent now. Your mirrored self moves microseconds before you do, a hand lifting, a head turning. Sometimes, your reflection simply stares at the ceiling or the wall behind you, ignoring your movements entirely, as if it is watching something you cannot see. This is the uncanny event, the reflection's near-total autonomy. The atmospheric detail is the smell that now sometimes accompanies the breathing, a cloying, metallic scent, like damp pennies or old blood. Psychological fracture splinters into near panic. You try to scream, but only a dry rasp escapes your throat. The mirror motif is now a hostile double, observing you from within its glass confines. The stain on the sink is a physical manifestation of the presence, linking it irrevocably to the water and the drain. An ambiguous thought. It is learning your shape. The water is not clean. The mark on the sink is no longer just a stain. It has texture now, slightly raised, like dried scabs or rust flakes. It crawls slightly at the edges when you aren't looking directly at it. A breathing is loud, right behind you, all the time now. It is deep, wet, rattling. You feel the phantom brush of air against your neck. You cannot resist the pull to the bathroom any longer. You stand before the sink, the drain staring up at you like a dark, open maw. The air in the room grows thick, heavy, difficult to breathe, like being underwater. This is the atmospheric detail, suffocating and oppressive. The mirror opposite the sink ripples, not like water, but like disturbed air. The glass surface warping and shifting. Your reflection is clear for a moment, terrified, eyes wide. Then it smiles. It is not your smile. It is too wide, too slow, too wrong. The uncanny event unfolds. The reflection in the mirror reaches out a hand towards you. A hand that is identical to yours, but moves with deliberate, unnatural slowness. You are frozen, unable to move, unable to look away. The psychological fracture is total, a complete breakdown of your reality. There is no doubt left. Something is in the mirror or behind it, and it wants out, or it wants you in. The mirror motif has become a threshold, a thin barrier between worlds that is starting to give way. An ambiguous phrase echoes in the thick air. Look closer, you can see it. Some doors are meant to stay shut. The intense pressure eases. The thick air dissipates, leaving behind only the familiar, damp chill of the bathroom. The rippling in the mirror ceases. It is just glass again, cloudy and old. Your reflection stares back, eyes wide, trembling. It is your reflection, undeniably. The breathing is gone, or perhaps it is only silent. The house is quiet once more. The external silence pressing in, but now it feels different. It feels like absence, like a space where something was, but is no longer, at least not overtly. You look at the sink. The mark is still there, the dark, textured stain near the drain. It doesn't pulse. It doesn't crawl. It just sits there, a permanent bruise on the porcelain, a reminder of what stirred beneath the surface. The feeling of being watched lingers, a cold ghost on your skin. Your memory of the last few moments, the last few hours in this room, is fragmented hazy. You remember the hand reaching, the smile, the terror, but it feels like a dream already fading, the details blurring at the edges. What happened? Were you pulled closer? Did it touch you? You don't know. The recurring motif, the mirror, is just a mirror, but you will never look at it the same way again. The reflection is your own, but you know there was a moment when it wasn't. The psychological residue is a deep-seated unease, a permanent crack in the foundation of your sanity. You leave the bathroom, step back into the quiet hall, but the house feels different now. It feels emptier somehow, or perhaps it feels fuller in a way you cannot perceive. There are unanswered questions hanging in the silence, swirling like dust motes in the dim light. What was in the drain? What was in the mirror? And what did it want? The mark on the sink is the only physical proof it wasn't just a nightmare, a delusion. It is a brand left upon the world. And if you hear it again tonight, don't answer, not yet. The distortion has passed the point of simple visual trickery. It acts now with clear intent. Your reflection is no longer a mere image mimicking your movements. It has become a separate entity, bound by glass but free within its confines. You stand before the bathroom mirror, frozen, watching. Your own hands rest by your sides, but its hands rise slowly, pressing flattened palms against the cool surface from the other side. Its eyes, your eyes, do not blink when yours do. They track you around the small room, following the slight shift of your weight, the nervous twitch of your fingers. Then the most terrifying thing, its lips, your lips, part slightly. They move in slow, silent shapes. Are they forming words? Are they calling to you? The air feels thin, charged with unseen pressure. From the sink, the subtle breathing has devolved into something far more visceral. It is a distinct, labored gurgle now, wet and desperate. It sounds like lungs filling with water, a struggle against drowning, or something immense trapped behind a thick, dark barrier, trying to force its way through. Gurgle, gasp, gurgle. The sound seems impossibly large for the narrow drain, amplifying the small space, making the porcelain seem fragile, ready to crack under the strain. You feel it deep in your own chest, a sympathetic constriction that makes your breathing shallow and ragged. Stepping closer to the sink triggers immediate physical protest from your body. An intense wave of dizziness washes over you, the room tilting precariously. Nausea rises, a cold dread coiling in your stomach. Localized cold spots bloom on your skin, a patch on your arm, the back of your neck, as if an unseen, frigid presence leans against you. These symptoms scream at you to retreat, to flee this space and never return. Yet, locked in a horrific stalemate, a terrifying curiosity battles the primal urge for escape. It is a pull, a magnetic, sickening draw towards the source of the sound, the source of the symptoms. The silence of the rest of the house presses in, amplifying the localized horror. The gurgling from the sink, the frantic drum of your own heartbeat echoing in your ears, the sound of your own swallowed fear. These are the only things that exist in this moment. Paranoia takes root and blossoms like a dark, poisonous flower. Sleep is a dangerous surrender. You fear what the darkness might reveal, or what might visit you when your guard is down. Mirrors become enemy territory, every reflective surface a potential window for it to gaze out from, or worse, to attempt passage. Away from the sink, you start to hear things, Faint whispers just at the edge of hearing, the phantom sound of dripping water, the unsettling click of something metallic. The motif of the reflection as a separate, malignant entity is terrifyingly clear now. It is not you. It wears your face, but its intent is alien, predatory. And the breathing from the sink? It feels like its voice, struggling to speak, or perhaps its physical form, trapped and fighting for release. Is the glass a barrier, or merely a thin membrane it is slowly eroding? You stand paralyzed, watching the reflection's silent struggle against the glass, listening to the desperate struggle from the drain. In a moment of unbearable tension, as your gaze flicks back to the sink, you catch a fleeting, horrific glimpse deep within the dark maw of the drain. Something indistinct, impossibly deep, darker than shadow. And then, just as quickly, glancing back at the mirror, something pressed flat against the back of the glass, visible for only a fraction of a second before your own terrified face obscures it once more. It is gone. Or is it just waiting? You stand before the sink, the cold porcelain pressing against your palms as you lean in closer. The air here is different now, sharper, carrying a chill that seeps not just into your skin, but into the bone beneath. It's colder than the rest of the house, colder than the outside night, and it seems to rise directly from the dark, circular drain below. You breathe deeply, a shaky inhale, and the foul smell of decay and stagnant water floods your senses, thick and cloying, undeniably stronger than it was moments ago. It coats the back of your throat, a physical intrusion. In the murky reflection staring back, your own face is a mask of apprehension. Eyes wide, breath fogging the glass surface above. But beneath the fog, something shifts. Your reflection doesn't just mirror your posture. Its eyes hold a flicker of something else, something calculating and ancient. You watch, paralyzed, as the water in the basin, previously still, begins to stir. Not a ripple from your hand, but a slow ripple in the mason. Deliberate swirl, like a hidden drain opening far below, though the tap remains resolutely off. The level seems to dip infinitesimally, then rise again, a restless internal tide. And with the movement, the breathing returns, louder now, closer. It's not coming from the drain, not precisely, but from the space within the sink, the space where the water meets the air, where your reflection exists. It grows, ragged and deep, no longer just air passing, but something heavy, wet, and guttural. You flinch as your reflection's hand, your reflected hand, seems to reach out. Not mirroring your own hand resting on the porcelain edge, but extending into the murky water. The surface breaks around it, not with a splash, but a hungry, silent parting. A wave of intense fear washes over you, so potent it's like a physical blow. Is this real? Is the water moving, or is your mind simply fracturing under the strain? You stare at your hand on the porcelain, then at the reflection's hand in the water. They are the same, yet impossibly different. The breathing reaches its terrifying peak, a sound like someone drowning and gasping for air simultaneously, a thick, viscous gurgle that fills the small bathroom, echoing off the tiles. And then the pulling starts. It's not just a feeling of dread, it's a distinct, physical tugging sensation emanating from the sink, from the water, from the reflection. You feel your weight shift, drawn forward, irresistibly. Your reflection's eyes bore into yours, holding a chilling intelligence, a silent judgment. It feels less like being pulled into water and more like being drawn through a veil into the space it occupies. Are you the one being judged? Or is it judging the world you stand in? The boundary between you and the anomaly blurs, your sense of self eroding under the impossible pressure. You are the watcher and the watched. You are real, and yet, perhaps, the reflection has always been the true one. The cold air rising from the drain feels like the breath of something vast, something that has waited a long, long time in the dark pipes below, and it is calling you home. Welcome to the eerie hour. Some places don't just haunt you, they wait. If you enjoy descending into the strange and the forgotten, don't forget to like and subscribe, and share your theories below. Now, let's begin. But remember, once the story starts, something always follows. You lean over the porcelain lip. The cold of it seeps into your forearms through thin cotton. It is late, much too late, and the old house groans around you, settling into its own deep sleep. The tap runs low, a steady murmur, chasing away the silence that feels too heavy tonight. You cup your hands, splashing water onto your face, rinsing away the dust and the tired haze from your eyes. The reflection in the basin is a blurred caricature under the harsh bathroom light, a face you recognize, but feels momentarily distant, as if seen through cloudy glass. But then, the sound changes. The steady murmur of the water falters, catches, and then deepens into a low, wet gurgle from the drain. It doesn't sound like pipes settling or air pockets clearing. It sounds labored, heavy, like something struggling to breathe just beneath the surface. A primal knot of unease tightens in your stomach. You turn the tap off, plunging the room into sudden, amplified silence. The sound is still there, a soft, persistent slurp gurgle from the white abyss of the drain. You stare down, peering into the dark hole, half expecting to see something staring back. The reflection, now clearer in the still water, seems to hold a flicker of something else at its edge, something that isn't you, isn't the porcelain. A cold dread, sharp and instantaneous, prickles your skin. You feel a strange dissociation, a sudden question forming in your mind. Is this happening? The air grows colder, carrying a faint, unpleasant smell, like stagnant water and decay. You pull back quickly, wiping your hands on a towel that feels strangely damp, even though it's dry. The sound persists, a low, disgusting sound you cannot identify, cannot place, coming from a place it should not be. The bathroom mirror, usually just a mirror, now feels like a barrier, separating you from a reflection that might be seeing something you can't. It was just the pipes, you tell yourself, gripping the edge of the sink until your knuckles are white. Just the old house making noise. But the sound doesn't stop. It continues its wet, awful mimicry of breath, and the face in the mirror seems to watch you with an expression you don't own. The gurgling continues, a constant, wet presence in the quiet house. It is no longer confined to the bathroom. You hear it faint, just at the edge of hearing, from the kitchen sink, the floor drain in the laundry room, even from the toilet when it's been flushed. It follows you, a disgusting little echo, a reminder of the porcelain throat you peered into. The reflection in the hall mirror looks tired, haunted, but sometimes, for just a fraction of a second, the eyes seem too wide, too dark, fixed on something beyond the frame. You find yourself avoiding reflective surfaces, catching glimpses of yourself and recoiling, as if seeing a stranger, or worse, seeing something with you. The scent of damp earth, of something vaguely fungal and rotten, seems to cling to your skin, no matter how many times you wash your hands. You scrub them raw, under the hottest water you can stand, but the smell lingers, faint but persistent, a chemical memory of the sink's foul breath. Sleep offers no escape. It is a battlefield of fragmented images. You see the drain, a swirling vortex, pulling you down into icy darkness. The sound of your own drowning breath mirroring the gurgle from the porcelain. You wake with a gasp, lungs aching, convinced you've just surfaced from deep water. There's a growing chasm in your memory, specifically around the time you leaned over the sink. Was it last night? The night before? The details blur, shift, refuse to solidify. It feels like a dream, a nightmare vivid enough to leave phantom sensations. But the fear is real. The constant, gnawing dread, the certainty that something shifted in those moments, that a line was crossed. You find yourself checking the drains in the house obsessively, peering into the dark openings with a mixture of morbid curiosity and terror, half expecting to see those wide, dark eyes reflected back at you. The sound of running water, once a comfort, now sends a jolt of panic through you. Each gurgle, each whisper from the pipes is a potential return of that sound. You are beginning to question the fundamental reality of the house, of the noises it makes, of the face you see in the glass. Is the house settling, or is something else stirring within its bones? The surfaces feel thinner now, not just mirrors, but window panes, polished tabletops, even the screen of your phone. They feel less like solid boundaries and more like membranes, stretched taut, with something pressing against them from the other side. You catch movement in your peripheral vision, a flicker behind your own reflection in a shop window, a subtle shift in the light on a varnished floor that suggests a shape moving just beneath the surface. The sound of water is everywhere. It isn't just coming from the drains anymore. You hear it in the sighing of the wind, the rustle of leaves outside, the hum of the refrigerator. It's a low, constant auditory pressure, punctuated by sudden, distinct gurgles that seem to emanate from the very air around you. The smell of damp earth is stronger too, thick and cloying in certain rooms, particularly near the sink in the bathroom. You can't bring yourself to use that sink anymore. You brush your teeth at the kitchen tap, feeling a residual dread even there. The porcelain fixture in the bathroom sits like a silent, watching mouth, its drain a black eye staring into the room. Your memory is a patchwork quilt of vivid horror and blank spaces. You can replay the wet, gurgling sound in perfect detail, feel the cold of the porcelain against your skin, but the moments leading up to it and the panicked rush to get away from it are gone, swallowed by a fog. You start leaving lights on throughout the house, especially in the bathroom, as if illumination can somehow hold back the darkness that feels like it's seeping from the walls, from the very plumbing. The house feels different, heavier, colder, as if something has taken up residence within its structure. You stand in the hallway, listening to the sounds of the house, trying to discern the normal creaks from the abnormal gurgles, trying to understand what waits just beyond the veil of the mundane. Does the house breathe now, or does something within it? The world outside the house feels alien, disconnected. You walk down familiar streets, see familiar faces, but it's as if you're observing them through a distorted lens. Every reflective surface catches your eye, demanding attention, promising a glimpse of the other side. A car window reflects not just your face, but a fleeting, dark shape behind you that vanishes when you turn. A puddle on the pavement shows a sky that is the wrong color, a looming darkness above the bright afternoon. The sound of water follows you outside as well. Rain is a symphony of terror, each drop a potential prelude to a deeper gurgle. The distant rush of traffic sounds like churning water. You find yourself flinching at the sound of coffee being poured, of a toilet flushing in a public restroom. The psychological fracture deepens into a constant state of hypervigilance. You are exhausted, running on adrenaline and fear, scrutinizing every shadow, every reflection, every sound. You talk to yourself, arguing about what you saw, what you heard, oscillating between the certainty of a supernatural intrusion and the terrifying possibility of your own spiraling madness. Could it follow me? The damp, earthy smell is no longer confined to the house. You catch faint whiffs of it in the dry air outside, on your clothes, in your hair. It's as if the sink's foul breath has become part of your own aura. The sink itself is a monument of dread, but now its malevolence seems to have spread, infecting the very air and surfaces around you. The feeling of being watched is constant, an oppressive weight on your shoulders. You feel eyes on you from the corner of the room, from the darkened hallway, from the spaces behind your reflection. You are no longer just haunted, you are hunted. It's like the world itself has become a vast, porous surface, and something is always trying to press through. The boundaries are dissolving. The world outside is no longer a separate reality. It bleeds into the horror of the house. The gurgling isn't just a sound. It feels physical now, a pressure behind your eyes, a vibration in your teeth. You feel water where there is none, a phantom dampness on your skin, a cold, wet sensation on your clothes. The reflections are no longer fleeting glimpses. They are sometimes sustained, showing scenes that aren't happening. Your bathroom, dark and empty, but with a shape moving near the sink. A hand reaching out from the drain towards the surface. Your own face, contorted in silent terror, pressed against an invisible barrier on the other side. You avoid looking at your own reflection entirely now, covering mirrors, turning away from windows, keeping your gaze fixed on the solid, reliable ground. But even the ground feels unstable, as if it could liquefy and pull you down. The persistent, cloying smell of decay is a constant companion, making it difficult to eat, to breathe without gagging. Sleep is almost impossible, a dangerous descent into a world where the floor is water, the air is thick and cold, and faces stare up at you from beneath the surface, silent and distorted. When you do drift off, the nightmares are visceral. The feeling of cold water filling your lungs, the inability to scream, the sight of the drain growing larger, a hungry maw opening to swallow you whole. The memory is shattered now, shards of terror floating in an ocean of dissociation. You look at the calendar and realize days, maybe weeks, have passed since the night at the sink, but it feels like minutes, like hours. You exist in a perpetual state of hyper-alertness and exhaustion, the line between wakefulness and dream blurring into a horrifying constant. The water, the reflections, the sink. They are not just symbols anymore. They are the fabric of your reality. Has it pulled you down, or has it simply surfaced into your world? You are not the same person who leaned over that sink. Not anymore. The bathroom is still there, the sink is still there, but you cannot look at it, not truly. The reflection feels wrong. Any reflection now, in a window pane, a polished surface, even someone else's eyes. There's a flicker at the edge of your vision, a sense that the surface isn't showing the whole truth, or that something is pressing against it from the other side. The sound of running water, once calming, is now a source of intense dread. It gurgles, it whispers, it sounds too much like that labored, wet breathing you heard emerging from the porcelain. You check the drain obsessively, half expecting to see something staring back. Sleep is a luxury you rarely afford, plagued by nightmares of being pulled down, of cold water filling your lungs, of seeing your own face contorted in silent screams from the other side of a barrier you can't break. Your memory is fractured. Moments before and after the sink are hazy, distorted. You question if the horror was real, if you dreamt it, if you simply lost your mind. But the fear is real. The lingering damp chill you sometimes feel, the faint, unpleasant smell that clings to your hands no matter how much you wash them. You avoid mirrors. You turn off faucets quickly. You leave the bathroom light on all night. You are a prisoner in your own home, haunted by a single careless act. You learned the hard way that some doors, once opened, can never be truly closed. And sometimes the deepest horrors aren't buried in the earth or locked behind iron bars. Sometimes they wait just beneath the surface, in the most ordinary places, for you to lean in close enough to see them, and to be seen by them. You survived the night, perhaps, but you are no longer alone. And the reflection in the sink is still waiting, forever, 3 a.m. And if you hear it again tonight, don't answer. Not yet.